This webinar contains information related to your studies and/or work in Canada. Always refer to Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada for the most up-to-date information. IRCC can be reached toll-free at 1-888-242-2100. Their website is cic.gc.ca. IRCC now offers many of the in-Canada applications online at their website. And the IRCC Help Center is a great resource to get answers to questions frequently asked about studying in Canada. Renewing your study permit. Ensure that your temporary resident status as a student remains valid. You must leave Canada by the expiry date of your study permit or apply for a renewal of your study permit prior to its expiry date. Begin this process well in advance. 8 weeks prior to the expiry date of your study permit is a good time to start the process. If your application is submitted after the expiry date of your current document, you will be considered out of status. If you are a temporary resident in Canada with valid status, for example, you have a valid study permit or work permit, you can apply for a new temporary resident visa to return to Canada before you leave. You can apply in Canada if you are a legally admitted student in Canada with a Canadian residential address, your current temporary resident status is still valid, and your existing visa counterfoil is expired or was valid for only one entry, and you need a new temporary resident visa to return to Canada in the near future. Citizens from countries other than the United States who do not need a temporary resident visa to enter Canada will need to obtain an electronic travel authorization before flying to or transitioning through Canada. Travelers do not need an ETA when entering Canada by land or sea. The authorization is electronically linked to your passport and is valid for up to 5 years or until your passport expires, whichever comes first. Applying for an ETA is a simple online process that takes just a few minutes to complete. However, some requests can take several days to process if you're asked to submit supporting documents. Working on campus. You may work without a work permit on your school campus where you are studying if you are a full-time post-secondary student at a public post-secondary school such as a college or university, a private college level school in Quebec that operates under the same rules as public schools and is at least 50% funded by government grants, or a Canadian private school that can legally award degrees under provincial law. Have a valid study permit and have a social insurance number. You must stop working on campus on the day you are no longer studying full-time or when your study permit expires. Working off campus. If you meet all of these requirements, you can work off campus as an international student without a work permit. You have a valid study permit. You are a full-time student at a designated learning institution who is enrolled in a post-secondary academic vocational or professional training program or a secondary level vocational training program offered in Quebec only. You have started studying. You have a study permit with a condition printed on it that allows you to work on or off campus. You are in a program that leads to a degree, diploma, or certificate, and that is at least 6 months long. And you have a social insurance number. If you are no longer a full-time student, you can still work off campus if you meet both of these requirements. You have been a full-time student since you started your program in Canada. You are now studying part-time only because this is your last semester and you do not need a full course load to complete your program. You and your employer must make sure you are eligible to work off campus without a work permit before you start working. If you start working off campus but don't meet the requirements, you may be asked to leave Canada. If you qualify to work off campus, you can work up to 20 hours per week during regular school sessions. You can work full-time on scheduled breaks that are part of the academic calendar of your designated learning institution. For example, the winter and summer holidays and reading week. International students who wish to work must obtain a social insurance number. This is a government-issued number that is legally required for all work in Canada. You need a social insurance number to work in Canada or get benefits and services from government programs. You must apply for a social insurance number with Service Canada. To apply for a social insurance number to work on campus, your study permit must have these conditions printed on it. 1. May accept employment on the campus of the institution at which registered in full-time studies. 2. May accept employment on or off campus if meeting eligibility criteria as per the regulations 186 F, V, or W. Must cease working if no longer meeting these criteria. If your study permit doesn't have these conditions but you meet the criteria, you can ask to have them added so you can apply for a social insurance number. There is no fee to add these conditions. To apply for a social insurance number to work off campus, you must have one of these conditions printed on your study permit. 1. May work 20 hours per week off campus or full-time during regular breaks if meeting criteria outlined in paragraph 186V of the Immigration and Refugee Protection Regulations, or 2. May accept employment on or off campus if meeting eligibility criteria as per paragraph of the regulations 186 F, V, or W, and must cease working if no longer meeting these criteria. If you meet the above criteria and these conditions are not listed on your study permit, you must request a correction to your study permit before you can apply for a social insurance number from Service Canada. You will need to change the conditions of your study permit before you can apply for a social insurance number if your study permit says, "This permit does not permit the holder to engage in off-campus employment in Canada," and you have changed your program of study. You can apply for a social insurance number at the Service Canada Centre in Camrose, on the second floor of the Federal Building located at 4901-50th Avenue. The Service Canada website is also on this page. If you have any questions about this section of the webinar, please contact me.